with the River Kings with Wonder Dog Bailey. You're trying to learn how to catch eddies. Well, I have 5 mistakes that new kayakers make all the time when they're trying to learn how to do this. If you can avoid these 5 mistakes, you'll be well on your way. Let's get into it. If you're unfamiliar with how to catch eddies, please check this video out. And it is all about catching eddies. It shows you the basic concept of what I'm trying to do here. And maybe even check this video out. It's another video where Yakoberry spends a whole day just practicing catching eddies. So I think you can get something out of that. If you're confused about some of the terminology, start there with those videos and then come back here where we start going into these mistakes. Right from the start, you need to understand that kayaking, especially whitewater kayaking, is all about energy and speed and controlling everything by using energy and speed. Now the river is providing a lot of energy and sometimes a lot of speed, and you have to match that. You have to harness that. You can't just float on it and expect good things to happen. So just remember, when you're whitewater kayaking especially, or really any other kind of kayaking, your moving forward is bringing the energy you need to complete moves and maneuver on the river. And to start out with, let's just say a lot of people don't go fast enough. They don't keep their energy when they're driving into the eddies. You have to break through the eddy line, and that's where the two waters meet. That's where the fast current is rushing by the not moving water. And that's kind of a confused water area. It can do things to your boat. A lot of people will call this a seam, but it's where two currents meet, and you need to break through that as quickly as you can and in control to get into the slack moving water. And that's where you slow down and turn around and spin out. So if you're trying to get into the eddy without breaking through the eddy line, you're messing up. So along those lines, let's start out with placing a pivot stroke before you're in the eddy.
And this is a perfect example. You see the eddy line there, and as Yakoberry approaches, he drops his pivot stroke, but he's still out in the current. And this is probably the most common mistake I see. From the eddy line there, you can see that he is still completely in the current, and he's put his paddle in the water on the upstream side. And so he's lost the forward momentum and drive that he could have had by placing a right stroke to drive himself into the eddy. And so basically, by placing that paddle in the water while still in the current, you're creating a sail for the current to grab and wash you downstream. Get into the eddy first, then drop your pivot stroke.
Another mistake that people like to make is not carrying enough speed to get into the eddy, and they just kind of drift by.
So in this next clip, there's kind of more than one thing wrong with his approach and his execution. But basically, it's just a lack of energy and drive to actually make the eddy happen. And you can kind of see him just drift by and into the bank. Go ahead and keep your energy, get into that eddy.
Another key component to getting into the eddy, along with your speed and your boat angle and the direction you're traveling, is the boof stroke on the downstream side. You gotta have the boof stroke.
This is lunch stop on the lower haul at about 4,000. And there's a little boof there, and you can see Anthony got a pretty good little boof stroke, and it spun his boat in. And then you can see Alan lily dip his boof stroke and totally style missing this eddy with a pretty pivot that's not working.
Another common thing I see is that people aren't catching the eddy high enough in the eddy or close enough to the rock that's creating the eddy. They want to kind of slide in way downstream, and the eddy's not well defined there, and a lot of times they just wash out the backside.
I believe this happens a lot because the paddler is a little nervous about that really dynamic eddy line at the top. Don't be scared, get in there.
Another thing people have trouble with is getting the angle right. They want to come down right beside the eddy and then somehow get into it. And this causes them to start drifting backwards as if they want to slide backward down the river and just kind of get in the eddy a little bit facing upstream after they pass the rock. That's not really how you want to do it. It's going to lead to a lot of trouble when you start getting into that eddy line. It's going to start messing with your boat. Drive across the seam, then spin out to face upriver. So now that we're getting into the eddy, the biggest problem I see there is that people don't edge that boat after they start spinning into the eddy. Now when you go from that fast current into that stopped water and you're spinning, water's going to build up on that edge if you don't lift it. So you have to edge the boat so that you don't eddy trip. You got to edge. So there's 5 mistakes I see all the time from people learning how to catch eddies. If you can avoid these mistakes, you'll be well on your way. Hope the video helped. Drop a comment if it helps, or if you have any other thoughts to add to the discussion. Go out there, practice some eddies, and remember, learn how to roll Everything else is a lot easier after that. We'll see you next time. Come on, girl. One more. Look at you.